Oh boy, I'm glad you're watching today. I want to talk to you about Steve Jobs' greatest secret to success. In fact, Darren Hardy, he used to publish Success magazine. He was interviewing Steve Jobs and he just wanted to know. He said, out of all of the breakthrough products that you and Apple have built, he said, what is the one that you're most proud of? Now, what do you think his answer was after something like that? Steve Jobs said this. He said, of all the things that we have done, I am more proud of what we don't do than I am of what we do. Can you believe that? He said most people think success is about saying yes to every great idea, opportunity, everything that comes along. He said success is determined by what you say no to. Now, I'll break this apart because when I first heard that, I was like, come again? But you know, it's true. There are so many things that are vying for our attention, and they can get you so distracted that you're saying yes to so many things, and you forget that you need to stay focused on the few things that mean the most to you. In fact, this story is just amazing. You may have heard this before on one of my podcasts or others, but it's about Richard Branson. So someone found out that Darren Hardy was friends with Richard Branson. And they said, would you work your connections for us and put a request in to see if Richard Branson will come and speak at our event? They said, tell him we'll pay him $100,000 to speak for 1 hour. So they reached out to Richard Branson's office and they said no. So they called the friend back, said he declined. He said, you're kidding me. Well, then tell him we'll give him $250,000 to come and speak for 1 hour. Called Richard Branson's office, he declined. They're like, dear Lord, what does it take to get him to come? They said, tell him we will offer him $500,000. We'll send a private jet to pick him up. He'll be back in the plane within 1 hour. Called his office, he declined. They're like, okay, now it's an ego issue. Give us a number. What does it take to have Richard Branson come and speak at our event? Now listen to what his assistant said in response. Richard is focused on 3 strategic priorities right now, and he will only allow us to allocate his calendar to something that significantly contributes to the achievement of one of those 3 priorities. And speaking for a fee at any price is not one of them. That's some serious focus, and I just want you to know I am not that focused. But think about his response. That's just not my priority this year. No matter what they offer, I have 3 priorities I must achieve. So bottom line is he says no to amazing things, amazing opportunities coming at him because he's focused on his strategic 3. Well, in fact, Darren Hardy was saying, I can't imagine turning down $500,000 to speak for an hour. And then he said, that's why I'm not Richard Branson, running 300 companies worth $4 billion. Well, that's true for companies, but it's also true for us. It's so easy to lose your focus because there's so many distractions that are pulling on you. In fact, listen to some of the reasons we don't stay or get focused. Number 1, we have a lot of interests. There's a lot of things we want to do. I don't know where to start. I have so many things I want to do. Another one is we don't like to say no to people, to projects, to favors, and that's a tough one because you don't want to appear rude, you don't want to be ungrateful, you don't want to act like I'm just so busy, I don't have time for that. But success is determined by what you say no to. You can't say yes to every favor and every opportunity. Another one is we're easily distracted. It's our own fault. We just get distracted by so many things. Another reason is we haven't thought about what we really want to focus on. Now that's probably the number 1 because most people never take the time to really think, what are my 3 strategic priorities that, yes, I have top 10 goals, but if I could just circle 3, what are the top 3 that if I accomplish those 3 this year, it could change my whole future. It could set me up for even a better year next year. Another one is we're so busy that we stay on the surface of life just trying to get through the day. So I want to challenge you to learn to say no. Discover what you need to say no to so you can be successful, so you can do what God's put in your heart to do. In fact, I read this story about a lady named Susan Brooks who, she said in the mid-1970s she was a school teacher from Florida, but she enjoyed collecting old family recipes, especially recipes that involved chocolate chip cookies or home-baked cookies. I have no idea what this is. But anyway, she said her friends loved her cookies so much, everybody ended up at her house, and her kitchen just turned into this cookie-making company practically. Well, they were so good that some of her friends convinced her to move from Florida to Georgia to start a cookie business, but they convinced her to start a retail cookie store, which was never really her purpose, her dream, but friends convinced her to do this. Well, in 4 years' time, it looks like, man, things are taking off. 13 franchises were opened. Well, she said, however, in 1981, the cookie crumbled, so to speak. And she said the partnership caved, and so did the integrity of the franchises. She said she was left with a few furnishings and 2 industrial ovens. Everything fell apart. Well, most people would have just given up and said, you know what, I blew it. I guess I missed what God wanted me to do. Now I'm a big screw up. She would not give up. She said, this was my cookie university. I was learning what it took to succeed. Well, she and her family packed up everything they owned in 2 U-Haul trucks, trailers, and headed to Tempe, Arizona. She said she got laser focused on what she wanted to accomplish. She said, I didn't want retail stores. I wanted to give cookies as gifts. So listen to this. She said she decided to create a mail order catalog to sell her cookies and other items. So that's what she focused on. She said from then on, she was in the gift business, not the cookie business, although the gifts were cookies. But she said this decision to get extremely focused paid off. Cookiesfromhome.com now operates out of an 18,000 square foot facility serving corporate and mail order accounts from customers coast to coast. She said her customer base went from 3,000 to over 75,000 quickly. She has had cookies show up in France, Canada, Mexico, Saudi Arabia, all over the place because she got focused. She had to discover, what do I need to say no to so I can say yes to what's really in my heart? Well, it's the same with what Steve Jobs was talking about. You know, he said most people think success is about saying yes to every opportunity and idea. Success is determined by what you say no to. And of course, he took that same focus, to Apple and to, when they created Toy Story, he took the same focus to Pixar when he said, stop doing everything else, but let's focus on one thing and do it really well. Well, let me just close out by saying this. These are 2 ways that you can identify how to stay motivated so that you stay focused. Number 1 is you can fear the consequences if you don't take action. What happens if you don't pay off that loan? What happens if you don't write that manuscript that's in your heart? Because you get so distracted by all these other things, you don't write the book. What are the consequences? Well, it's not going to be written, it's not going to be printed, it's not going to help anybody. Or here's another way, fear the consequences. Number 2 is you can get excited about the rewards and benefits if you do take action. So remember those 2. Success is determined by what you say no to. So determine your top 3 priorities and stay focused. If you're enjoying the podcast, please subscribe to this channel. Follow us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. I want to keep you motivated to achieve your dreams. Thanks for watching.